It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. Joining me today is Jeremy Boudinet. He's the Director of Marketing at Ambition, an employee productivity platform that drives people and process with goals, scorecards, contests, and analytics. Jeremy, welcome to Accelerate.
Hey, Andy. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on.
So take a minute, introduce yourself, maybe tell us how you ended up at Ambition.
Yeah. Jeremy Boudinet, Director of Marketing here. I ended up at Ambition. I've been with them for 2.5 years. Very unorthodox path to this role. I graduated with
a law degree, right?
Right, yeah. I've got JD that I do not use and never plan on using ever, hopefully.
So what was the drive to go to law school?
So I always thought growing up that I wanted to go to law school. I've always loved writing and reading and debating, all that sort of stuff. And I wasn't good at it. Those have been my strengths, really. And graduated with a poli-sci degree from UT Knoxville, and really when you do that,
University of Tennessee for those who
University of Tennessee, right. Volunteers, and when you do that, Andy, you really leave yourself very few options.
I was a history major, so I identify 100%.
Yeah, and so went up to Pittsburgh, graduated law degree, was very happy with kind of the job prospects, and I hated law school, hated law, and did not really study probably as hard as I should have for the bar.
So the reading and the writing part weren't as fun at that point.
No, and when you're reading a super archaic court decision from the 3rd District of Pennsylvania and working out a brief for an attorney and spending 10 hours in Westlaw researching, trying to find a case that matches what your argument is, it can get pretty demoralizing. So, just ended up turning into a recruiter actually for the legal industry. I lived in Fort Lauderdale, and I was colleagues there from college with the co-founders of Ambition, and they were the first startup out of Tennessee to get into Y Combinator. Graduated from Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator program in Silicon Valley. Winter of 2014. Got a bunch of venture capital backing and hired me as their first business team member to do marketing, to do content, to try to help spread the word about Ambition and what we're solving for. So
they were banking on your in-depth experience with content creation and so on as a lawyer.
Yeah, and between you, me, and your listeners, I might have had a mini entrepreneurial thing going on in college back in the day where I'd help people with papers, writing and stuff like that. And I've always been willing to write stuff. I just love to get my thoughts down on paper, and I love to help people. And I immediately, when they told me the job description, I was like, this is so perfect for me. I have to take this. So I was studying for the Florida bar. Pretty much bailed on that, just moved up here, and that was in May of 2014.
Oh, there you go. So what was the impetus to start Ambition? What was the problem they were trying to solve?
Yeah. So they are 3 co-founders, and we had a 4th co-founder as well. They basically got out of college and knew they wanted to get into tech and be entrepreneurs. They're all business guys. Started 2 previous companies. One was called Reticker, and that was called Fireplug. And we're based out of Chattanooga. They were in the Lamppost Group, which is the major investment group there. And the first 2 ideas were good, but they're B2C. They weren't really growing as fast. And they ended up getting inspiration from actually where Lamppost Group's founders came from, which was they started a company called Access America Transport, which ended up being like the 12th biggest third-party logistics company in North America. Got bought by Coyote Logistics, got bought by UPS. And so what they did at Access, they had all these logistics brokers doing all these calls, and they created a way to start doing fantasy football for sales, if you will, and running these really like intense competitions and like scoring people based on, just like a fantasy football player gets points for scoring a touchdown or catching a pass or whatever. They create a way to score people for, closing deals, getting revenue, making calls, et cetera. And so our guys were talking to them and they were like, why don't we try to create a software version of this that really is around scoring people and turning work into a more fun, collaborative experience, give more opportunities for recognition, and really appeal to like this very millennial idea of gamifying things or keeping track of keeping a score of some sort. So that that was a couple of years ago, and since then we've grown Ambition into this really just total sales performance platform. It started out with the team sales contest, and we got featured in Harvard Business Review. We had all these great accolades, but they kept adding on the product, and now we have like employee goals. Any employee can track their goals on Ambition, and what Ambition does, really, I should say, is that it takes all your metrics from all of your data systems. Could be Salesforce, could be a phone system, could be a system like PeopleSoft, or just manually uploaded, and it tracks them in real time. And so you can essentially, if you're a manager, track all your metrics from any data source and like apply them to your reps, have benchmarks that your reps are supposed to hit, broadcast the leaders on each of those metrics, and have a way to like have transparency and like recognition for different parts of your organization. So a lot of people, we're mostly sales teams still use us, but we have like account management teams, client success teams, even some marketing teams who use us as well. So really exciting to be a part of it. It's a fun mission to be a part of.
So is it being used mostly by just sort of real the activity intensive tasks or roles like SDRs, for instance, and not so much for field reps or account execs? I mean, how does that sort of mix work out with your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. It definitely works best. I think we've seen the most success with inside sales teams or even like call center teams who are maybe on the support side. Mm-hmm. But people who have a very repeatable process and all that. But we also have like field sales reps who, like, the purpose of it with them sometimes is to have them have visibility. They're out in the field. They're not connected to the office, not all in the office together, and give visibility into what they're doing. And they have visibility into what everyone else is doing. Just have the whole team on the same page. So as like the sales process in a lot of industries is getting more segmented, it's a good way to like ensure there's no silos that end up being created, stuff like that. But yeah, the more repeatable the process, I would say, definitely the better the success. And the more transparency and recognition and energy matters to your team, the better as well.
So is the gamification something that's really, I'm always sort of fascinated by this. I mean, we see a lot of gamification elements in products that are put out. Is it being used?
Great question. I mean, so by the way, just quick aside about gamification, I've always like really struggled with that term myself, even as the marketing director, because you could say scoring, creating a score for someone's gamification. You could say having a leaderboard of any kind is gamification. Really all we're doing is it's funny how people like characterize it. But
well, to me, the gamification is, I mean, you have a scorecard that could be individual and private, but once you start broadcasting it, everybody's in comparison, then competition starts up, whether you want to call it gamification or not. But let's call it competition. Yeah,
that's a great way to look at it. I'd say it's all about competition. So taking all that, you're right, those internal metrics and metrics that maybe only your reps are seeing, or you as a manager are only looking at every end of the week. You got a spreadsheet you're like pouring through, which we all hate, and you're publicizing it all, and it inherently creates competition, whether you're like really that's your main focus or not. Your main focus might just be to have visibility and transparency and stuff. It's funny, Mark Kosiclo, who outreach VP of sales, who uses us, he's gotten the record as being, it's all about transparency. He doesn't even think about competition or anything like that. He just wants transparency. And
but he doesn't have to think about the competition, because who thinks about it are the reps themselves.
That's true.
So,
that's a very good point.
Right. As a manager, you can say, I don't care about the competition part, but as soon as you put out a scoreboard that has 10 people on it and what their metrics are, or their scorecards, trust me, it's like saying that the kids at a youth football or youth soccer game, they're not keeping score. Oh yeah, they are.
They are. Absolutely. And I think a great way to look at it is, every person in sales is in competition. It's like you're in competition to beat quota. It's you versus quota, right? And or whatever your version of quota is. So
it is that. But my experience has been, like I said, over years and years of doing that. Yeah, I wanted to beat quota, but I always wanted to beat everybody else as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this takes that and brings it to your entire sales force, and it's funny how people respond to it. In the Harvard Business Review article on us, they interviewed Clayton Holmes, Fortune 1000 home builder, was using a 60-person team in Knoxville, and they talked to all the reps. And it's funny, they see it as competition, but they also see it as collaboration. Like they see it as we're all working together, and everyone else is working too, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like group accountability you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it brings group accountability to the forefront kind of too. And I'm sure people saying that are probably not the people who might be struggling, but there's ways. Ambition is great because you can structure it to where, you're only publicizing leaders. Maybe you're not publicizing people who are struggling, or maybe you are if you want to do that. But it's really able to basically make whatever part of your data you want public, make it public and clear, and sort of build ways to motivate your reps around it in like a perpetual way that you don't have to fuss with, and you don't have to like go and pour through reports or look at Salesforce reports and be like, oh, great job, so-and-so. It's automatically happening.
Right.
So
and it sounds like
one of the things go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it. So it sounds like one of the key features, and just to make sure people who are listening are understanding, is at the heart of it sort of the scorecard. And let's say for SDRs, they have to make so many calls and send so many emails and maybe some social touches and follow-ups and so on. And as I understand, what you do is you assign like a point value to each of those activities. And then people have to achieve a certain point value to be meeting their goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, and the thing I like about it, and this is sort of fascinating, fascinating that you've automated that, is that, I used that methodology for years with the reps that I managed and the professionals I managed let's have, if they really want to understand whether they're getting things done, is I had a boss that introduced me to this, a guy not taking credit for it, but we called it a box score, but it's a similar type thing. It was, it was a little scorecard where you had, certain point value for each of these different types of activities. And I had point goals for the days of the week. And at the end of the week, I looked at my point total more so than each of the individual activities.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's funny what you just described. We've had a lot of clients who were doing that before Ambition. I think that is a common way to that's it predates what we are. But it's just a simple way to understand and contextualize what your data means, and what it means to you, and to see how you're doing really in four ways: you versus your goals, your benchmarks, you versus your peers, you versus your team versus another team, or you versus your past performance, which is another kind of cool thing about it. We let you very easily see, how you're doing this week as opposed to last week or the week before, and across all kinds of different metrics. So, yeah, I think it's important. I think there's so much research out there that really just hammers home the need to use competition, use accountability, and use proper recognition standards, and have it all fit well within your process. And when you start doing that, then you're basically, that's the ultimate form of management, because you can have people start becoming self-accountable and accountable to their own success, and you don't have to worry about going over, making sure everyone's doing what they need to be doing. People are holding themselves accountable and they're holding each other accountable, which is the ideal.
Yeah, no, I agree.
For any VP of sales.
Right. And I think going back to an earlier point about the scoring system, again, for people listening, is one of the real values, whether you're doing it manually or using a system like Ambition, is that not all activities are weighted equally. So having the ability to assign different point values to different types of activities, at the end of the week, it's the score, it's not the absolute number of activities. And this is a subtle distinction for some people. I think they really need to think about it because, if you're saying everything's worth 1 point, an outbound call, responding, following up to an inbound lead, sending out an email touches, you look at it, they're not all the same. What do you value? And at the end, if the mix comes up to that score that you want to have, then that's more important than the absolute number of activities. So it's really important that people understand that. And like I said, it's something I know that you support with your system. Yeah.
No, I mean, you nailed it, really. And that's really the reason things like us need to exist, because like you said, not all activities are created equally. Things matter more to different roles, and a phone call might matter less than, the ability to number of prospects touched. I mean, depending on what kind of structure there is to your sales process, there's going to be, some disparities in terms of what matters. So yeah,
Sure.
we really just want it to be clear to everyone, the reps, the managers, how they're doing, what matters, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think the reinforcement you talked about is again, research is showing that it's not the commission, the sort of the ultimate reinforcement for behavior that really drives and motivates people. A lot of times it's that small daily things, right? I did great today on this dimension, or I did better than everybody else on this, and the manager sends a little note saying, hey, great job today. And if you have that ability, that visibility to see it at that level, that micro level, that can oftentimes be more motivating than at the end of the month, hey, you hit your goal.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're exactly right. It's what people have always said is it's reps are loyal to managers, not companies. If you as a manager, if you're giving out that soft recognition and it's personalized and it's timely and it's public or private, but if it's public too, that's even better. And as a manager, if you're able to get those notifications coming to you, that's one of our big features is we let managers set notifications for first person to hit a certain metric. Maybe it's 50 calls a day, or hit a certain amount of revenue or whatever it is. They get an email notification telling them, so they don't have to be on top of it. They can set these up just to automatically go out in real time, or go out at the end of each day, whatever they want. And then the other cool thing for us, Andy, is we got another part of the product called the productivity quadrant, which maps reps based on how they're performing on a grid that's basically a matrix, 4 different quadrants in it. The x-axis is hustle or productivity metrics, phone calls, emails, whatever is kind of the daily activity stuff. And then the y-axis is your objectives. And that's another key thing about Ambition too, is we segment your scoring into activities and objectives. So you can have you're basically being measured on, your daily activity, how much you're doing, all that sort of stuff. But then you have a separate score that's, maybe if you're an SDR, how many qualified leads did you set today, or how many meetings did you set, or stuff like that. They're kind of like the more goal attainment, the ultimate goal of what you're trying to do. So what you can do with this quadrant is you can see where you stand in terms of both hustle. If you're a manager, have your whole team on there and see where you stand in terms of both hustle and goal attainment. So the top left quadrant, those people are working very efficiently and they're not maybe making as many phone calls or emails, but they're hitting, whatever their quote, weekly quota, whatever you have, better than other people. And then the bottom right would be the opposite. It'd be people who are working really hard and, really trying to hustle and get stuff, but they're not getting a lot of good results. And so if you're a manager, you can see that and you can go and say, okay, maybe this guy needs coaching. He's been really working hard the last month, but he's not, succeeding for whatever reason. And it's data backed. It's basically a data backed way to also have better one-on-ones. and have better coaching as well. So that's, there's all those components to it, but it's meant to really just like make everyone be on the same page and have everything be data backed in real time and very simple to see and understand, so it's,
as I was looking at that quadrant and what really struck me is that it would really be kind of cool. You see that sort of, if you could like drill down, you get that data, as you said, somebody's in the upper left-hand quadrant there, or maybe either quadrant, upper left, lower right, is you then like dig into like an insight squared. So you could really say on a deal by deal basis, okay, why is this behavior reflected this way, right? Well, this person's, gosh, what they're doing is they're leading with a proposal quickly and they're flushing out the unqualified prospects and they've got a higher close rate. Maybe they're working fewer prospects, a higher close rate. Okay, is that behavior that might be worthwhile for people in the lower right? So yeah, it's to me, it's a good screen to work through.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing, as you're basically going to is if you have everyone mapped, like ideally you want people who, like almost like a straight diagonal line up through the quadrant. That would show you your process is really being ideal because it's tied the activity and the objective. There's like a 1-to-1 ratio at each level. So people who are doing more activities are the ones getting the most goal attainment, and the ones doing less activities are getting less goal attainment. So you can also assess the quality of your benchmarks, of the metrics you're measuring, of what your entire process is, and find out if there's disparities. Like go to people who are the outliers and say, hey, what are you doing that's different? All that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean that's more like we call gamification sometimes, and it's funny because this is like a score based. It really is like a gamification, kind of is like the foundation of it because it's a way to see all this stuff. But you don't have to have the scoring even for it. You can see metric by metric. You can see calls to deals or stuff like that. So it's almost just a business intelligence tool, but it's very kind of very sales oriented. I don't know if there's a lot of other professions where it's that well suited for as much as sales.
Yeah, well, it's certainly for salespeople. It's always been the plus and minus, right? It's always about just what you do, and the minus side, it's all just about what you do. So, so who's the ideal client profile for Ambition?
Great question, and like as the marketing director, by the way, this has been a just fun, very challenging 2.5 years working with that because we have very different ICPs based on industry, as a lot of SaaS companies do. I feel like. We work really well with like larger teams. I'd say if you have 20 or more reps, that's better. You get more value out of us. If you're a big inside sales team and you really are have a rhythmic daily sort of thing you got going on, then that's a really great. We're great for that. But we're also great for segmented teams who you have SDRs, you have account executives, maybe you have sales engineers. And you're able to go and have transparency throughout all your different roles. So I'd say the smaller teams, you probably don't necessarily need something like this as much. And we're also kind of pricey, so you might not be ready for it.
Good qualifying statement. There you go.
Yeah. But I think anyone who has a process that's down and is activity driven is going to get really good results from us. And you don't have to be a Salesforce user with us too. It's nice. That's another differentiator with us is you can have multiple systems. You can have just one other different system. We have a big client, West Corporation. They use PeopleSoft with us. And so we just have an API plugin with that and their call center.
But you have APIs for CRMs other than Salesforce?
Yeah. So really not so much. Maybe like Dynamics is probably we can do all this stuff, but it's not. We don't have a lot of like client use cases with it, so I hesitate to really push that out there. But yeah, dialers too is another one where any phone dial like Cisco, we have a one-click integration with Cisco, all that stuff. So yeah, it's a very we're able to be very versatile that way. And get all your data.
So basically what you're saying is bring us a big enough opportunity and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. That's which is the standard the standard for a SaaS company of our size.
Yeah, standard for tech companies of any size. So,
Right.
So speaking of which, now what are you primarily? Your customers primarily in the tech business?
We have it's funny how it works out. We have a lot of tech companies who do use us. We're some of our best, like longest users are like Drew Woodcock, VP of Sales at Chow Now, Mark Kosaglow, at Outreach, Dallas Hoganson at Lyft. Those are examples of that. And then we also we have a logistics client, massive logistics client for us. We really started out with logistics with them. But yeah, we also have a lot of e-commerce companies too, though. Like My Wedding is a very successful company with us. By the way, My Wedding is 30. I think it's like 35. Like, and they're all women. It's interesting. Some people think this is a fancy sales macho guy only thing. That's not been the case. But yeah, I'd say like e-commerce companies like My Wedding, Peak is another one we've done well with. Foresight, there's a ton of them. Okay. So it really spans industries, and chances are there's been people using it, if you're whatever industry you're in.
All right, good. So now we move to the last segment of the show where I've got standard questions I ask all my guests, a very popular segment of the show. The first question is actually a hypothetical scenario that you, Jeremy, are the star of. And so in this case, you've just been hired as the VP of sales by a company whose sales have stalled out. And CEO is anxious to get sales unstuck and back on track, so we got to get a sales turnaround going. So your first week on the job, what two things could you do that would have the biggest impact?
Two biggest things. I would interview every single rep and go and talk to them anecdotally, get the anecdotal evidence about why things have sold out, get all their thoughts on what the process is. Also, you kind of earn their trust a little bit that way. Second thing I would do is you just got to dive into the data and do a full audit of, and really looking at like your client, like the process from, okay, how is marketing impacting this? Is it client? Where is the problem? Like, is it something we can control? Is it something we can fix? Is it a seasonal thing? Is it, basically wherever it is, use the data to find it. So I think it really depends on, if I was VP of sales would you say it was a tech company or
it
is
could
it
be whatever company you want?
Whatever company you want. Okay. Yeah. So it would depend, but I'd say in my industry, that'd be my full approach.
All right.
And,
All right. So do you ever get a chance to go out and sell?
I actually do. I go out and I've had some accounts I've worked on my own.
So good. So here's the question. So when you are out selling, you, Jeremy, are out selling, what's your strongest, most powerful sales attribute?
I would say it is it's getting in. It's the initial part. It's getting in and that initial conversation. I'm a terrible closer, Andy. I can come in and I know how to start the conversation and earn your trust and all that sort of stuff. But I really I just have a hard time with the closing aspect. But I'm good. I think it kind of goes into why I think I'm good at marketing is we're able to go and figure out what people's needs are very quickly, and instead of just selling them the product, figure out what the issue is. Quickly see where we can add value and know how to pitch us based on what their role is, their industry is, how they've interacted with us, what their relationship is with other technology, all the things that really should be informing your sales process. Right. So, yeah.
Well, hey, give me a little bit of time. I can teach you how to be a good closer. The way I teach people is by showing them that deals close themselves. So you want to talk about that? We can talk about that after the air.
It's funny, by the way, my brother's a President's Club account executive. He's younger. He's 26, President's Club account executive for a SaaS company in Austin. And he got the closer. He had the natural closer attributes, I feel like.
Yeah. See, I don't believe there are such things. So anyway, The natural closer attributes are really just annoying to most customers. So, all right. So next question. So maybe you just answer the question. Who's your sales role model?
Sales role model. Great question. I would say I'd say my dad for this. Okay. And it's funny. He's been VP of sales. He actually has been in sales his whole life. He was the youngest sales director with Heinz. He was the VP of sales for a company called Orsley Beef, where he came in and they had 0 sales reps, and he grew them, and then became Bob and My Natural Foods. He worked with them for several years and managed a massive sales team. And he's a guy who everything he told me, like when he found out what Ambition was the first week about, I basically just grilled him like nonstop about sales management, and sales in general. And everything he told me over the last 2.5 years has only been reinforced. And it's amazing. I think one of the first interviews I did at Ambition was with him. And I go back and read it. It's like 10 questions. And it's almost like just stuff that everything that's basically been repeated every sales influencer series interview I've done. So yeah, he's my role model with that. And I'm lucky that that's one of the things that I've been fortunate with is I have family members I can call and talk to,
all right.
A couple times a week and get their insights about stuff.
Cool. So what's one book you would recommend to every salesperson read?
I love the Sales Acceleration Formula by Mark Roberge. I think, and he talks a lot about a lot of the stuff we've discussed in here about, even scoring reps and figuring out how to segment stuff and marketing his role in things, and having just a very aligned process. And I think what he did at HubSpot was just excellent. And that's kind of the very scientific. Everyone says it's true. Sales is half art, half science, and he really, to me, set the bar high for how you can scientifically sort of lead your sales team. I'd say another guy, I forget the book name, but Mike Weinberg, Sales Management Simplified.
Right.
I love that book.
Yeah, both those guys are good friends of the show and good friends. So, and Mark, is now teaching at Harvard, Mark Roberge. So,
yeah.
Last question for you. What music's on your playlist?
Oh God. You don't know this, Andy, but I'm a huge music lover. I'm a guy who literally my 2 favorite things to read are about sports and about music history. I've got 10 music history books at home actually. On my playlist right now, I've been listening to a lot of new wave, a lot of 80s, and new bands. I've listened to a lot of new bands that are the Hotel of the Year and all that stuff. But I think I also love rap. I'm a lifelong rap lover, and basically anything Wu-Tang Clan, anything Dirty South rap, if you will. I love. I think it's
a little old school in the hip hop. Yeah,
I can go old school. I can go new school. I'm a very flexible music listener. It's kind of a hard question for me to answer.
Well, you gave me lots to choose from there, so that's good. Well, Jeremy, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Tell folks how they can find out more about Ambition and connect with you.
Yeah, ambition.com. Go check it out. We're the number 1 category leader for GT Crowd and sales performance management. That's based on user reviews. We're the AISP gamification and recognition top service provider for 2016 on the App Exchange too as well. Follow us on Twitter at Ambition Sales. We're also on LinkedIn. You can find me, Jeremy.Boudinet at ambition.com, and check out the Ambition blog as well, and Sales Influencer Series, where I'm usually on your side of things asking guys what they're doing. But thanks so much.
Hey, my pleasure.
It's been great.
And thanks for being on the show. And friends, remember, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And the easy way to do that is to make this podcast accelerate a part of your daily routine. Listen in on your commute, in the gym, or make it part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Jeremy Boudinet, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.